What's up, everybody? It's Kavon with Functional Fitness VA, and today we're doing some bicep curls.
Do it. Yep. Oh. Is the kettlebell the best thing in the world for bicep curls? No, is the answer. Dumbbells, probably a little better. Barbell, probably a little better. Cables with the right attachments, probably a little better. Resistance bands, maybe a little better. Just because it's not the best thing in the world for curls doesn't mean you can't do them, and doesn't mean they won't be effective when doing them. So if you're limited in your stuff at home, or you're just trying to get a quick one in the gym, you're in one place with the kettlebell, you can use it for bicep curls. You gotta get a little creative. So here are a few options for a kettlebell bicep curl. Number one, keeping it simple, it's a two-handed kettlebell hammer curl. You grab this sucker by the horns, just like you would for a goblet squat. Soft knees, elbows at your side, extend down, flex to get them up. Simple. You want to keep tension more or less the whole time. If you want to get extra kind of tricky, you can lean back at the bottom a little bit, lean forward at the top, through your whole body to keep tension through a full range of motion. Is it necessary? Probably not. Again, soft knees, curling up, curling down, keeping tension the whole time, being careful not to swing your elbows forward and turn it into some version of a front raise. Is it a bad exercise, doing a kettlebell front raise? No. Great for the delts and involves the bicep a decent amount. But if we're curling and trying to isolate, let's keep it that way. Flipping it, literally, we can go for the inverse hammer curl. Same position, nothing else changes. Curling up and down, trying to keep tension the whole time. Just by virtue of where the weight is, the leverage, you're going to get more work out of those wrist extensors. Now, you want to make it even more work, you can lean back from it and keep the bell kind of shifted away from you slightly. Not all the way, we're not relaxed, so it's longer. And don't finish at the top. So I'm not coming here, keep tension, and I'm getting a little more wrist extensor work. Of course, you could always play with that and then just go into some wrist extensions, but we're keeping it to curls today, so bending at the elbow. So that's the inverse kettlebell hammer curl, holding it by the horns. Next option, let's call this the cupped curl. All right, I'm cupping underneath it more or less. Elbows are slightly flared, curling up. Since you're in that supinated or palms up position, it's going to get a lot more just bicep work. The short head of the bicep, a bicep overall, it's going to avoid some of that brachialis and some of those forearm muscles. So I'm here. Again, I want to be underneath it, cupping, curling up. This one can get tricky as the bell gets bigger, depending on your hand size, but even as the bell gets bigger, as long as you get a good position underneath and wrapped around, you could make that cupped curl work. Keeping the elbow by your side, maybe even back a little bit, as long as you can get to full extension, full-ish, without losing tension. And that'll be real hard because you'll probably lose the bell. But don't let it drift forward. You can also do the inverse cupped one. If the position of the handle being up high makes it want to wobble too much for you, you can kind of flip it down. I'm still supinated with palms up, curling here. Just watch the pressure on your wrists as you come to the top, because notice my wrists are extended a decent amount, not all the way and relaxed, but extended, because if I do this, it takes some of the tension off. So I'm there. And that's great to keep tension on the bicep, but it does put a little pressure on your wrist, so watch out for that. Bringing in a little accessory, we can use the hand towel, small towel for the bicep curl. Two different ways I like to do this. First one is just an extension on the hammer curl. So I grab fairly close, I come up, and I'm hammer curling. This will allow me to keep tension as my hands separate a bit, so I can get to that fully flexed position while still keeping tension on the bicep. Allows a little more freedom of movement than it does when you're holding onto the horns of the kettlebell. From that, we can use the mobility of the towel, especially if the weight's a little lighter, to do a supinating bicep curl. So I give myself just a little more room. You don't want to be too far from it, but enough room that I can rotate through my wrist, supinate. And as I curl up, I supinate. And that's going to get that short head of the bicep a little better. Turning your pinky up towards the ceiling. Just watch out for that, always. And keep tension on the bicep. You may have to kind of hunker down a little more, hunch over a little more to focus on that top position as you supinate with the towel and rotate out. Lean into the tension. Because if you're supinating through the forearm and wrist, that's working the bicep. I don't want to do a lazy version where I'm kind of just turning where it's easy. I want to use the weight and turn into it. So I'm kind of turning my pinky into the pressure of the middle of the towel, not just letting my arm position help me rotate out. Turn into it and squeeze. Squeeze. If you like pinwheel curls, you can always use a towel, challenge your grip and forearm a little more. Single arm, doing that pinwheel curl, you just got to watch out for it flying around. You want to grip fairly close so you have a little better control over it. Coming across the body, that's that old school dumbbell kind of pinwheel curl, where your thumb's leading the way. It is a single arm hammer curl, but it's coming across your body as opposed to out in front. There. That's if the kettlebell is fairly light, because if you got a heavy kettlebell you're using for swings and whatnot, you're probably not going to be able to do this. The exception, some people with some giant arms, but that's a version there that you can do with the towel. And likewise, I could just have it out in front for the hammer curl, just keeping tension on it. In the hammer curl, I'm a little more forgiving if the elbow shifts forward a little bit. That still allows you to keep tension on it when it's pulling down like so. Just don't get too crazy with it. Again, it's not a shoulder exercise. We got other things for that. These are a couple little bonus ones. Again, if you have a really light bell, most of those two-handed ones are what you're going to use because your kettlebells are going to be of a bigger size than what you could just handle with a single arm dumbbell curl, with some exceptions. So here's some fun ones with a single arm action. If you really just want to work the forearms and grip like crazy, you can do the single arm handle kettlebell hammer curl. Just make the kettlebell an extension of your forearm. It's not drooping down. That could take some work. You can grab near the neck or the corner, or even grab on the horn. That'll make it a little easier. But it's that single arm hammer curl, and like the towel, you could turn it into a pinwheel variety where it comes across your chest as opposed to out in front. Tension's the name of the game here on these isolation, concentration movements, so don't just swing it about. You could do cleans for that if you want. The next version is a palm curl. Grabbing it with your thumb around the horn, curling with it in your palm. Single arm, this is more supinated, more just straight bicep. Keeps tension throughout. This one's pretty good. Simulates the feel in the arm of a dumbbell. But again, lighter weight's what you're going to need than your typical swing bell, squat bell. And from there, just any way you want to do that. The old school Arnold concentration curl. Squatting over, braced against the inside of my thigh, concentrating on that bicep from that palm position. So a lot of ways you could play with it from there, but your staples, your horn two-handed hammer curl, your towel hammer curl, your towel supinating curl, inverse hammer curl, again, with heavier weights that you're doing other compound lifts, or more likely that those are the versions you're going to have to stick to. But again, kettlebell can be useful for some curls, for some accessory work, not just your compound moves and your swings. So try a few of those out. Bigger than mine, but big arms.
That, what, yep, oh, oh, yep, what, that, oh.